this is just so much fun. Like, we'll be in the office at 7 p.m. and like people are having fun. It's not, it's really cool, the perspective that it has given me. And then I'm able to kind of pass that on to the team.
Zach, how are you?
Black t-shirt Thursday. Great. Yours is a little more fresher than mine.
How is black t-shirt Thursday different than black t-shirt Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday?
There's no difference.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, it's good to see you, regardless.
Mm-hmm. When did you meet today's guest?
Gosh, man, you're coming out with the hard questions right out of the gate. I think it was a chamber event, if I remember correctly. Leland will fact check me on this. I'm sure that he remembers. It's just we're coming off the throes of the Startup World Cup, as we've talked so much about. And then everyone is just like, oh, man, are you able to catch your breath? Are you getting some downtime? It's like, no, we're not. Not at all, because we have this thing called 757 Tech Night that is going to take place on October 9th at the Chrysler Museum. So that's another heavy lift. Yeah.
What kind of artifacts do they have at this museum?
I'm looking, honestly, I don't know if I've ever been in it.
I've been in it. I just can't remember.
And my memory is just kind of shot at this point.
Don't they have, it's like art, right? Don't they do like some thing?
I know they blow glass, and I'm looking forward to that.
Have you ever blown glass?
Just tipping bottles, you know what I'm saying? Long necks, if you will. But apparently, though, they did have the Norfolk, or on a Netflix series. They haven't. They had the glass blowing. There was a guest appearance. There's some documentary about glass blowing on Netflix, and we were featured. Who knew?
I drove by the building the other day. I was like, oh, that's cool, because they renovated or something. So it's cool. All right. So allegedly, Tim Ryan and Leland met at what is your last name? Remias, something like that. Remias. What is your last name?
Remias.
Leland Remias met at a chamber event, Peninsula Chamber.
Is that right?
I would say, yeah, that's accurate.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Nancy introduced us. Nancy Gurdon introduced us.
I think that, because was it the event where it was Nancy, Blair, myself, and Paul Nolde? Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, it was the Rising Tide event. That's what it was.
If we were at a wrestling event, they would say to Tim, "You still got it." You still got it.
Dude, it's crazy, man. I had to dig deep for that one. Because the thing that's difficult is, it's interesting. If I was in the office right now, which typically I am, Leland and I would be sharing a wall, and that would have made for an interesting show with a little bit of delay in there. So we see each other so often that I was thinking about that while running today. It was like, man, Tim, don't you? We know so much, we talk so often that we have to make sure that we talk about it in a sense that.
Y'all ever have Zoom calls, virtual calls next to each other?
Well, typically when James is on the call, we do hear that echo, but not with Leland and I know.
I'll normally just walk over and barge into his office.
Got it.
If I have something I need to.
I typically always have the door open, even when I'm on calls, and then everyone's like, the door's open, let's go. But no, it is. It's great to have Team VroomBrick next to us. Just because, Zach, we talk about this all the time in the sense it's like there's certain people there that take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to them, and some people that don't. And the ones that do are the ones that typically benefit. And VroomBrick and Leland they are a group that takes advantage of the opportunities presented from to them, and as a result, they've benefited from it.
So, okay, I feel like I wanted to know this, and I don't feel like I've ever asked you this. Like, what the hell's up with this name? Like, how did VroomBrick become a thing? How did you guys decide?
I think that we did talk about it on.
Did we? I don't remember.
First appearance.
Okay. Got it.
So
Zack
Zack
doesn't
still
have
doesn't.
it.
Zack doesn't have it.
Tim has the memory.
I'll explain
Yeah,
it.
I don't.
I can explain it again though for the
Please.
newer audience. Yeah. So the etymology of the name brick is, what houses are made out of, and vroom means fast. So, and efficiency. So, 2-syllable name is kind of the overall thing we were going for. And, it has to do with homes and closing fast and efficiency. But then also there's this SEO element to it. If someone Googles VroomBrick, we're the first thing that comes up because it's a made up word.
Okay. Etymology. Probably heard that word whenever you were on a year or two ago, because I just don't remember any of this. But that's interesting.
Well, I would.
House. Got it.
You have to be probably in the top longest 2-syllable words in existence. That would be interesting to query.
Yeah. Get a chat GPT
11
response.
But it's not a real
letter.
word. It's not a real word.
No,
So-
but 11 letters for 2 syllables. I'm sure that you're at the tail. You're at the tip of the spear there.
There's a show called the 1% Club where they have like mind games or like trivia, like try to like answer that. I feel like what you just said, Tim, with like the 0.5 syllables plus 3 syllables, like that conclusion would be that I have no idea what the heck you just said. But it's a cool show. Anyway. Okay, so buying a house is something that is marketed as like the American dream. I know in your documentary, the American dream aspect of that is something that was important to you and your family, your ancestors. But it's interesting because I don't know, I kind of feel like owning a house is one of the biggest scams in America too. Like, it's just so ridiculous. The amount, like, seriously, we spend so much money on interest.
Well, yeah, a scam in the sense of from the banking.
Yeah. Okay.
In terms of like value appreciation and appreciation value.
Yeah, but if you buy a $500,000 house, you're spending 1.5 over the period. I mean, that's a lot.
Well, right, I get it, but in terms of like as that resource appreciates, that wealth is that is passed on. Now, I don't argue with it.
You didn't like that.
Well, no, but I think the thing that's really interesting though is like if you go to Europe or whatever, like a 30-year mortgage is such taboo. They just don't do 30-year mortgages anywhere than the United States. And so from that standpoint, I 100% agree.
Yeah, so there's this stat that 80% of millionaires are created through real estate. And, that a large part in that is people's primary residence. Appreciation does play a big role in that. But Zach, what you're referring to is the way that loans are amortized, where there's mostly interest in that monthly payment getting paid up front. So, there's people that pay it off faster, but if you're looking at it in the long game, it's definitely a good asset class to hold.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it's just crazy when you look at how many people that are relocating here from like New York or even California. Yeah, they're selling their homes in California. They've racked up a ton of equity. They come here, they think home prices are cheap, and I poke fun at them because I'm like, you are dry. You think that homes are cheap. You're making these crazy offers, all cash offers, man, and you're driving the price of real estate up because you've gained so much equity.
It's all relative, right? All right, so you participated in the World Cup a couple weeks ago. It was not real money on the stage. Someone did ask me that actually.
Really?
Was it real money? I was like, no, I thought I said that, but someone thought it was real money. It might have been my mother. She's like, well, who picked up the money? I said, I don't know. It's probably wet with the crunchies still on stage. What were your thoughts? How did you think you pitched? You definitely seemed to have the crowd on your side. I could hear some like cheers from the crowd. You had a big contingency, is that the right word? You had a big group of individuals that came to support you. How do you think you did?
Yeah. I'm thankful for everyone who came out and supported, and the people that I got to meet there. I think it went really well. It was our best pitch yet, and a lot of preparation went into it. It was actually the toned down version at the guidance of mentors and people we practice in front of. But I think it went very well overall. Got to meet a lot of great people after the event. Really couldn't have asked for more, and really just glad to be back in focus mode on the actual business, because pitch competitions are fun, but growing the business itself and moving the needle, in my opinion, is a lot more fun.
I'm curious. I've been meaning to ask you this, and well, I'll do it now. So you had like a mic drop moment. You finished your pitch. You had a fistful of not even hundies. It was like thousandies. I don't know. They
100,000ies.
And you just threw them
$100,000
up.
bills. Yeah.
You threw them up in the air, and then you walked off stage. Did you have a little adrenaline rush when that happened? What was going through your mind after when you threw them up in the air?
Yeah, I don't think I had an adrenaline rush, but I was trying to work on my form. You can't just throw it up in the air and it just flops to the ground. It's got to stay in the air for a little bit longer to have that dramatic effect. So that was the one thing I didn't practice. But after I watched the
I thought
video,
it worked.
it did work. After watching the video, at least. The original idea, though, that I have to say is that the money set was actually from a money gun that I ordered off of Amazon. So initially the plan was to have that money gun kind of tucked into the back of my suit and then use that. But I was told it would take away from the seriousness of the pitch. So it was vetoed by some of the mentors.
Oh, that doesn't sound as bad as I thought. I heard it was going to be way worse than that. Like
that would have competed against our T-shirt cannon.
Yes, true.
But no, the World Cup is just I'm trying to think about all the things that you have taken advantage of. But go ahead.
This is the moment. I'm not going to play the sound, but this is what I guess he's finishing. Yeah. What kind of suit is that?
It's also like balancing, holding 3 different things in my hand. Like it would have been easier if it was a clip-on mic, but
yeah, we went through that with the AV team. This is what they said was easiest from a direction perspective with so much thing. Here you are, you got some money, we're throwing it, okay. And there it is. Walks off the stage.
Yeah, like 3 to 4 seconds of hang time of the money was the optimum amount there. Yeah.
Then this jabroni. This guy kept trying to get backstage the entire night. I'm like, no, dude, you can't go back there. This is me looking for the money. I'm like, oh, it's real. No, it's not.
That's Akil, our software engineer. He's awesome. But yeah, I was sending him back there to make sure that the fog machine was actually in fact on, because we had a portable generator inside of there, and it wouldn't have worked unless he like turned it on at a certain time.
Got it. We were trying to keep you guys. There were some things hidden. The marching band was back there. We didn't want anyone to see that. There was a monster backstage. I feel like there was something else back there, but yeah. Oh, did one of you guys catch the ball that I threw, the T-shirt that I threw? Because it looked like your or not your, but your team. Like I saw Adam back there.
Justin, one of our co-founders, got one, but it was a reactor T-shirt that he already has.
Oh,
Someone. Okay,
well,
so there was.
we had
there was
no
a-
idea what. I don't even remember what. There were several. There were Pegasus shirts. There was Reactor shirts. There was some other. I think there were some World Cup shirts.
There should have been World Cup shirt. I think there were some Virginia Beach shirts. I don't know, but I know that like Chris Lyons, friend of the program, he kept trying to get one. I thought I threw it to him, and then there was all these girls in front of him, like these little girls, not the ones that got on stage. But I was trying to throw it to them, and I said, "Did they?" I was texting him the next day. Did they get it? And he said, "Yes," but it was like an extra large, and these kids are like me, a kid small. Like, how do you figure that out? That's always like that's the thing. Like, you get the shirt, and then, well, it's not there.
I hope that they found good homes, and I hope that the Reactor shirt also found that Justin was able to give it to someone on your team.
I think he gave it to his girlfriend.
That works too.
I'll have to check.
Sleep shirt. Got it.
Because as we've talked about several times, we did not go cheap on the shirts. We spent the extra money to ensure that they're soft and comfy shirts that you look forward to wearing.
Not a Gildan 4500. Nope. Okay, so how'd you come up with? Well, where are things with VroomBrick these days? How is the company doing?
It's doing well. We're working more of our military partnerships, getting a lot of good feedback. We're in a stage where we have the in-house team for the development, and we're just able to iterate so much quicker now that we have that firepower on our team. So we have like a classic startup where we're all in the same office, and we're able to hear feedback real time from people. And we've got a good backlog of things, but we're also making a big dent on features that have been requested, things to make the process easier. Because our whole thing is that anyone can buy or sell a home without the need for a traditional middleman, and because of that, they can save thousands. And the experience is very important for us that users have. So we collect a lot of feedback, a lot of data on where people are potentially spending longer on in the real estate process. And we can either make fixes through actual development changes, but now we have the ability to tweak things a lot quicker in terms of like the actual content that's in people's sites. In the same way that people can do taxes on their own with TurboTax, we aim to make that process as seamless for the buying or selling for sale by owner process with real estate. And we're at a point where it's getting so seamless for people that we're ready to just go all out on marketing and start scaling even more.
So walk us through that journey for those people that are hearing about you for the very first time. Who is the ideal customer? Who are you targeting? And just and walk us through that process on how VroomBrick works.
Yeah. So in terms of really kind of starting with the overall problem, there's high transaction fees associated with real estate. That our hypothesis that we've been proving is that if you can take out middlemen from the equation and plug them into the points where they're absolutely crucial, then consumers can save. And so when it comes to buying, that's closing costs being covered. We'll have people getting checks back at the closing table rather than having to pay money. And then on the selling side, that is your bottom line. So, we were talking about appreciation. That's more appreciation going to you back in your pocket when you sell through our platform. Ideal customer for us is military buyers and sellers. Being a veteran, what I experience is that high frequency moves equate to those fees at a disproportionate rate. So what does that actually mean? On 2 to 3 year orders in the military, you are moving at a designated period. For example, I've had friends stationed in Hawaii for 2 years, San Diego the next year, and then they moved to Norfolk. And if they are selling a house or trying to buy a house, they get into this dilemma of, should I just wait till the next duty station? Do I have enough equity to sell? And so we give people more optionality and empower them to do that process on their own and save thousands.
Yeah, because to circle back around real quick, here we are, we're talking about homes as being one of the ways that creates overall net worth. But on the military side, if you have to buy and then sell a home within 2 years of one another, you may not have owned the asset long enough for that for the home to appreciate to provide a return at all. So being able to save on closing would help offload that home, if you will, and not force somebody to rent it out or whatever the case is, to just to get that asset out from underneath them.
And you might not even buy in the first place if you know that you have to move in 2 to 3 years, when you do in fact have a 0% down loan. It creates kind of this rent or buy scenario where the statistics show that active duty are about 15% less likely to buy a home than their veteran counterparts that are more permanently in place somewhere. So it just creates this overall scenario where you might not even be able to buy because of the frequent moves. But then if you do, you have to give it all the way. You have to give most of it away to fees within that 2 to 3 year cycle.
How much the closing? What is the average closing cost these days? I'm not even sure anymore.
Yeah, average closing costs are around 3%. That is comprised of, and so this is on the buyer side. That's your loan origin fee, your prepaid taxes and insurance, title fees, attorney fees, and then on the seller side, you can expect about 6 to 8% in some cases, and that's realtor fees, title transfer fees, taxes. So there's a lot of bloat, what I would consider bloat, in that process, because there are a lot of hands in the pot when you are buying a home. There's the closing company, lender, traditionally the realtors, home inspectors, insurance providers. There's just a lot that want to, they provide services that they are charging for.
And then they have 30 years of interest, which comes
Well,
back to my
I was going to say,
point.
all this leads into what Zach's point was. It's like, well, when everyone's hands in the cookie jar, and you're able to, I'm assuming the closing cost, if it's not covered by the seller, the buyer just lumps that into the overall initial mortgage. So
I love owning a house. I'm just saying,
but
it's
just real quick, if you lump the closing costs into the home and you're on a 30-year mortgage, like once that mortgage is paid off, if you're able to pay off that mortgage, that 3% may equate to way higher amount over 30 years than if you're just to pay up front, which is very difficult to do.
What I guess, Zach, in terms of like outpacing inflation, though, when it comes to, is the argument that you're making that it's better to rent than to own? Because I would say that's
I'm not making that argument alone. I'm just saying banks make a lot of money, and the fact that it's so difficult to buy a house, and then it takes so
it's really
long
from the financial side. Banks just, man.
But then they immediately sell the loan, which is ridiculous, and then they sell it like 16 times. I'm like, if it was this easy, like,
it is a wild game.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the interest itself, there are things you can do to pay that down quicker. Like a lot of mortgages don't have like prepayment penalties. So if that's the biggest worry, I'd say one of the things that we talk about in real estate is that if you do one extra monthly payment a year, you can pay down that 30-year mortgage. It becomes more of like a 21 to 22-year mortgage if you're just doing one extra payment in a year.
It's wild. It's a wild. Yeah. I just, Zach, you pay too much attention to your mortgage statement, man. You just can't even, it is painful. It's super painful.
No, I don't pay that much attention to it because of this exact thing. Because when I look at it, I'm like, I have spent how much money over the 7 years I've lived in this house, and I have spent how much? I'm like, I have how much? I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, the front loading of interest is a real kicker.
Well, the first 10 years too, which is where I think VroomBrick is actually important. There's so much interest in those first 10 years. And then so many will tell you just to refinance. And that doesn't, like, you're then going right back into the interest. Refinancing is one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah, for refinancing, you always want to be very aware of your break-even point, because if people get so fixated on the monthly payment, they're like, oh, I'm going to save $100 on my monthly payment. Well, how much does it cost to have to refinance? You really have to do the math, because $100 a month is $1,200 in a year. And then if you're paying, closer to 2% in some cases, to refinance on a $300,000 house, that's $6,000. Well, you're not going to pay that off, or you're not going to break even on that savings until, the 4 to 5 year period again. And then your interest is starting back up again, to be more top heavy towards the, on your monthly payments, the way that loans are amortized in that first, 12 years, most of it's going towards the interest, like you said. So refinancing, in some cases, it makes sense if you have like a long time horizon, but you really want to pay attention to that break even point. Otherwise, you're just fixated on a monthly payment, but you paid X amount to get it there.
What kind of feedback are you getting like right now from clients? The thing that it seems from my point of view, the people that use your service, super happy. But like, is there any headwinds in terms of some people like, man, this just seems too good to be true? Like what and how do you overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, the feedback we've been getting is great in terms of like savings is like a very tangible value proposition you can have for people, especially with kind of like our side-by-side calculator tools we have. Like, for instance, the last closing for one of our users, they got back a $3,500 check. With that, and on top of that, they saved about $10,000 in closing costs. So the real world impact of that, right? I think it's just easy to put it to tangible things. They're getting popcorn ceiling removed from their walls. They're getting new flooring. Their offer was automatically more competitive to another offer they were going against because, pound for pound, if someone's using our platform and someone's using a traditional middleman, then they have extra fees associated with them. So there's all these benefits to using the platform as a buyer, and they can use that for real world things that actually help improve the value of the home.
And if you take that money and if you make that your one additional payment for the year, then you could knock off years off of not only you saving money, but you're knocking years off of the overall mortgage. Correct?
Yeah, correct. And we actually save people on average 3 mortgage payments when they use our platform. So whatever their mortgage payment is, we can save around that 3 times that amount
over the totality of the loan.
So upfront on closing costs. So like, for example, if you're buying a $300,000 house and you save $9,000, you could use that towards your mortgage payments if you wanted to. So yeah, you're getting that savings up front versus over the totality.
I would imagine, I'm curious what your take is on this. I would imagine like other real estate agents, you got someone like you coming in here, like really disrupting, and I mean, percentage based commission is like fantastic. I mean, they're just naturally getting paid more as homes appreciate. You come in here, and you're like, man, let's save some money for our users. We're going to go flat fee or whatever the case is. Does that tick people off that are because they've been just benefiting this long, or what's are you the guy that everyone growls at when you walk in because you're disrupting the landscape?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that get it, and we plug realtors into the key points where they're needed, and the ones that partner with us are actually making a lot of money. So, like on the seller side, we partner with flat rate brokers. So every time they key in a listing for us, they'll get paid flat rate up front. So they don't have to wait until commission. Or they don't have to wait until a closing to get commission. On the buyer side, we work with showing agents for your safety and your access and to be in compliance. So they're getting paid per showing. And, again, that's upfront. So I would say there's people that like to partner with us, get paid. There's also the people that know that competition is good. And then, there is a subsect of people that don't like what we're doing. But with any incumbent industry, there is that type of status quo. And whenever you're challenging that status quo, people do think about their livelihoods. But we're here to augment the system. And the realtors that partner with us are actually doing great. Some are making, just as much as they would have made on, a transaction in a month by just doing some of the a la carte services.
And how much time is a typical realtor save by using your platform? I mean, just to automate that process and keep, to have that tracker to know where everything is. I value my time. I know what my hourly rate is or that I think it should be. And if I can save 10 hours, okay, I might not get as much as a percentage base, but if I can save 10 hours of my time, that may be more valuable than the typical funding structure.
Yeah. So right now, just to clarify, we are working on some of those white labeling services for realtors, but in the current construct, we have like the TurboTax like model where the consumer is using it. They have a closing attorney on their dashboard. They have a lender on their dashboard available to them, and we assign them a relocation concierge. So the realtors themselves, they'll just get a notification for when they have those showings or when they have a a la
Gotcha.
carte request. So, in terms of time savings to their transactions, we're not doing that yet. However, the time savings element, or I guess really the efficiency element that they have available to them, is they can just see a request and do it if they want to. They'll see the price of it, and then they can go out and do that service in an a la carte fashion and
Yeah.
get paid for it up front. So that's where we come into play to benefit realtors.
From a business technical standpoint, how have you put together your team, and how have you learned from that experience? That's from a founder perspective, I feel like that's one of probably the most challenging things is to bet right. How's that been?
Yeah, I think for us, it's kind of been this flywheel of like operations catching up to automation, and then doing what we can manually and then automating the rest. It's kind of just like this constant flywheel of doing that. So it's kind of just been, on the operations side, if we need extra support, um, our operations officer is a former agent, like myself. So, he was really the first person that was brought onto our team. We started realizing like, all right, here's the things we need to automate. And then, developers were brought onto the team. And, now we're in that cycle again of like, we've automated most of the things we can up until this point, but we're working on more value add for the consumer themselves. So kind of keeping that flywheel spinning. And then, now at this point, we're just going to be spending more on marketing and, getting the word out there.
So things scaling well? I think if I remember right, before, that was the big challenge that you're trying to overcome. And the first time you were on the show was like, hey, we got to pump the brakes a little bit, because we're not ready to scale. How are things coming from the scalability standpoint?
Yeah, really, I mean, our approach thus far has been grassroots efforts in this hyper-focused niche of the military. So when it comes to tabling events or base events or partnered military nonprofits, that's been our approach, and it's been doing great. But the thing is, like, we want to, now that we have more automation in place, we're going to be doing a lot more things that are hyper scalable in the sense of, like, there's traditional things that realtors will do to get business because it's a relationship based business, and we've kind of been taking that approach thus far. But some of the things that we're going to be doing in the future, which don't want to dive too deep into it, are going to be things that I've never seen a realtor do or even talked about in the community, because of just the flexibility that we have. And we do think it'll pick up a lot more traction because of some of the approaches we can take with our positioning that we have.
Are you still a realtor?
No, I put my license in inactive status before the company launched, but I was a realtor.
So how, like, have things changed enough for you, or you do know enough of that world where you don't really, because it was kind of a cool thing that, like, you knew that world, you created this because of that. Like, do you feel like if you were still a realtor in some capacity, like selling a house a year, do you think that would help or hurt, or it's, you need to focus on the business and my point is dumb?
So, I mean, as far as, like, being a realtor gave me a good baseline for what is being done manually, and we've automated all those things, like contract writing. If I were to really, like, try to preach my value proposition and think back to what we call objection training as a realtor, there's all these scripts where if someone tries to challenge your commission, there's things you can fire off and say that you provide value for. And so what that allowed me to do is really look at it from an objective lens. Like, if these are the things that a realtor is providing value for, how can we automate it and make it better for consumers? And contract writing, for an example, before that used to take us, as a realtor, just making sure everything was good on a contract. It could take me up to, 45 minutes to do. Now we have it down to a couple clicks, and where the consumer themselves is just able to enter the information and it gets populated to a contract. So it's like, those are the things that we can take from the inefficiencies where before I would say, well, I'm writing your contract, just as like a example, and that's why I deserve my commission. Well, now we can flip that around and say we're empowering consumers to do that. And while still having the support in place, they can click a button, get a call with a closing attorney scheduled within 2 hours if they want to review it. And so taking some of those learnings from real estate and applying it to what we're doing now has been the most value. I don't think, to answer your original question, like, if I step back into the realtor role, I would just be making like 3 times the amount of money I was making before. But that savings wouldn't be passed on to a consumer.
I'm just sitting here thinking about, we started to touch on this a little bit, but just taking advantage of opportunity. And I don't even know if I can even remember all of the different things that Team VroomBrick has taken advantage of. So like, I'm just thinking, you participated in Start Peninsula.
Yes.
You're an active member, if you will, or a portfolio company for Reactor.
Yes.
You're in Virginia Business Magazine and the military, the veteran issue. Was that what it was, or is it just because you were in uniform?
It was
Or
the
maybe it was the
startup
startup
issue.
issue.
Yeah,
The
the
startup issue. You were featured in Disrupting the Tide, a mini documentary of VroomBrick. Startup World Cup twice. Last year you were a 60-second pitcher. This year you're in the top 10. You were nominated and a finalist for Tech Night as Startup to Watch, I believe was the category. And I know, and different events that we've had at Reactor in terms of investors that have come through or Rising Tide events. I mean, you just time after time after time. Cova Biz Magazine, I believe, didn't they do a piece on you as well, or no?
No, they didn't. It was the Virginian pilot.
But
Well,
I
then you
mean, like
got the
that is
collab Lighthouse,
Accelerate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just
there's a
So
lot
there's just
more.
like a checklist, and he's just checking them each box off. What you tell me, Tim? Got it.
There's a
Well,
lot of
when
other things we did as well, and this is just Reactor, or Innovate Hampton Roads associated things. I think there's so many great resources in Virginia for startups, businesses in general, but you're right. We've had a great foundation set for us because we've really just been kind of showing up every day and moving the
doing
needle.
the work.
And so when people want to back companies where they're working hard and showing up every day, like you can't be half in and expect support. So we just show up every day with the mentality that we're gonna give it our all, and the ecosystem has been very supportive of that.
I would just say it's a lot of people are afraid to raise their hand. A lot of people are afraid to open the door to show. And clearly, if you do that, it can be good for you because you never know what can happen. So congrats on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
great damn hand.
And that was just some of the things, and I know from my standpoint with every founder that I talk to, it's like, I'm very upfront. I can't want it more than you. Mm-hmm. And it, like you said, you're there every day, you show up every day, your team is there. And so, wow, when it's like, hey, media is calling and they want to do a piece on a company or whatever the case is. I mean, when like we said, when you're next door, it's super easy to say, hey, Leland, there's this opportunity. Do you want to take advantage of it? Makes it super easy when you're present. So
I remember Danny Rubin. I didn't tell Danny that he was in the promo video at the beginning of the World Cup. I didn't tell anyone actually. And the next day I texted him and said, I hope it was okay that you were in this video. And he was like, yeah, it was a little jarring, but free publicity, baby. Like, he gets it. He's a PR guy.
And so for anyone to say that there's not resources available to people to help you. Yeah. I mean, I will always turn to Leland and VroomBrick to say, oh,
you know what I think people want that why people say that though? Because the answer is, there is not money being exchanged to them. I think that's what they really mean by resources. And sometimes you have to think that money isn't the answer, because let's say you do, I know you're raising money right now, Leland, and I'm sure you have an answer to this question, but someone's raising $500,000, $1 million, whatever it is, maybe it's even $50,000. What are you going to do with those funds? I don't know. That's what a lot of people would say. I don't know yet. And it like, so then what do you need the money for? You know, if you could instead have a resource that could give you access to something that could give you that for a nominal fee or free, that might be a little bit better than spending a lot of money on something that you don't even know what you're even going to spend it with. So that's why I think people say that about resources, though, Tim. So
I mean, I would say that investment can't be the objective in of itself. Like, it has to be a byproduct of the traction, the daily improvements, the things that you're doing for the company. Like, it will come as a byproduct, but if you are pursuing that as the main objective, then you're not going to achieve that goal.
Yeah, and it's a relationship thing. Yeah, and it's just, and as we always talk about, Zach, it's like, you got to take the stairs. It's like, yeah, I would love to take the elevator to the top too, and once you exit those elevator doors, there'd be a big chest of money that's just waiting for someone to take, but it doesn't work that way. I mean, it's just to think about the number of people that Leland has met along the way and the relationships that have been formed. That's what it is, and you got to take the stairs.
Yeah, I think the cool thing was, like, when I was first going to these events, and this is really just the power of networking, right? I didn't know anyone at the events. You know, maybe one or two people that would introduce me to another person. But at the World Cup, for example, I could look around and, you know, I had at least talked to or known, you know, on a first name basis, and then actually had good mentorship relationships. In total, about like 70 of the people there, which would have been close to 10% of the audience. So it's just, over time, we keep running into the same people that are also growing with us, wanting to see us grow. And it's just been a product or a byproduct of showing up every day and, you know, trying to improve.
One of the things that was cool was you all, leading up to the World Cup, you committed to doing a video every day leading up to it. Remind me how many days ahead? Was it 28 days ahead? I don't know. It was something.
It was 17 days ahead of the World Cup that we started this daily video. We only really did it on the weekdays. You know, our wonderful marketing associate, Amelia, would have to edit those videos the same day. You know, it would take about 30 minutes to an hour to film them. So it's definitely not something that's sustainable, but we got a lot of great feedback on it.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of people that approached us saying, like, that I didn't know at the time, that were like, oh, I saw your videos. Like, and then there were some people from Innovate that were like, oh, thanks for doing some of the marketing for us. And then I met with a founder today that said, like, she found out about the World Cup because of those, you know, the videos on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's something that we committed to before the World Cup, showing some insights. But really the goal is to encourage anyone that, you know, startups can be made in Hampton Roads. You don't have to be in some, what's considered like a tech hub or Silicon Valley, and really kind of just show a transparent insight into what we were doing up until the World Cup.
Well, and I'm curious, have you had the time to look at, these were our numbers before we did these videos, and these are the numbers afterwards, in terms of like audience reach, you know, number of Instagram views or followers, website traffic? Have you looked at what that percentage increase has been?
Yeah, we've done some of the metrics on it, and, you know, we got over 50,000 impressions from those videos total. But as far as like overall, like, follower counts and stuff like that, I haven't really had a time to dive into that. I know we have gotten at least like 70 or so followers from it. And it's a cool byproduct of just committing to something. And
Right.
we know it might not necessarily move the needle on the business, but what we really wanted to do from that is get people to show what Hampton Roads is doing for startups, and kind of encourage people to go on their own journey.
Yeah, and that's really the point that I wanted to emphasize was like when you commit to do something and you do it over a period of time, you're going to see it. But it takes that commitment to see those types of results. And yeah, it's I don't know, the whole adage of it's not who you know, it's what you know, but it's always one step beyond that. It's who knows you. And as a result of doing that for 17 days leading up to it, there's a lot more people that know who you are than had you not chose to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was well worth kind of the time commitment. And we also got to highlight our team members and people that are doing things behind the scenes to make VroomBrick what VroomBrick is.
What did the military teach you about being a founder?
The military gave me great perspective on what it means for hard work. And so like I was I learned so much in terms of leadership and like how people want to be treated, and how everyone responds to things differently. And then it was also really just getting people on the same page about a vision that it's called commander's intent. So you had to get people on the same page as the commanding officer who is carrying out a mission. And so you might not always agree with that mission, but trying to get people together to be productive, because especially when you're out to sea for months at a time together, things are going to go a lot better if you can get people on the same page, have a good attitude, and cohesively work together. So it's what it taught me is leadership, perspective, and then also what I'm able to do is now that I'm doing something I'm very passionate about, now it just feels like it's a 10x like return, because I can put that passion paired with those skills, and work really doesn't feel like work. Like I'm having fun every day. Like I tell my team every day, like people on our team will say like, this is just so much fun. Like we'll be in the office at 7 p.m. and like people are having fun. It's not it's really cool, the perspective that it has given me, and then I'm able to kind of pass that on to the team.
And I want to take that one step further, and I'm not looking for you to divulge any specifics. Yeah, we can keep things on a very high level, but like, dude, you're so even keel. You're so yeah. I don't know if I've ever really seen you upset. Uh, Whereas, like, I know that you have had as many highs as we've talked about. You've had lows along the way. Yeah. How do you stay so even tempered about everything and not let those lows impact you and the leadership and across the team?
Yeah, I I would like to see if my team has that same perspective, because there's definitely times where I will get hyper focused on something and more sternly go into them on it about certain things. But in general, I try to treat people how I would want to be treated. Like I've learned from good leaders and I've learned from bad leaders, and people just don't really respond to um, temper or anger very well. And so there are definitely times where there is the need to put more emphasis on things and you know show some emotion when it comes to really why we need to be doing something. um, but I'd say in general, I've been able to learn from some great leaders and then some leaders that I don't want to be like. And that's how I try to, lead our team.
And next week we have the team from VroomBrick to tell us how Leland is.
Well, the funny thing is, man, like I know some of the specifics of things that went down, and like Leland's just pretty chill. And then like I'm sure like the walls are pretty thin in our office space where I feel like, man, I get fired up, and you can probably hear me yelling about some of the specifics that happened along the way. And
tell us a story. What's something that you heard Tim say once where you're like, damn, I can't believe he said that.
Well, I get pretty
it was about me. Was it about me? I hope so.
The walls are very thin, but you can't really hear specifics on things. And then we also have music playing in our office all the time. So it's like, it is hard to hear about.
That is the most disappointing thing you could say. That extremely disappointing. Here I am trying to get some ammo, some real content, but no.
I mean, I do. I tend to get hyper focused and easily wrapped around the axle about certain things just because
it's very easy for people to say stay even keel, but it's a very hard thing to do.
Well, especially, when you don't get a deal that you're hoping to get, or you don't get a client, or, it's just, there's always challenges.
Yeah.
That I would.
What's something we haven't talked about that you want to talk about? Or go.
I was going to comment on that, really quick. I think our team just sees every setback as part of the overall VroomBrick's story, and then a chance to turn a non-believer into a believer over time. That's kind of like how we approach things at the company, because we know that if we execute on certain things, the sentiment will shift. Like, these things really don't happen overnight when it comes to startups, and we're very focused on this stepwise approach to getting to the point that we want to be at. And that's what kind of keeps us sane.
Well, it certainly helps when you have someone like Justin on your team. I don't think Justin has ever had a bad day. I mean, like that dude, every time I see him, he's smiling, he's just happy. And I'm like,
we try to keep the positivity up. It's not hard, or it is hard being I guess what people would call a disruptor in an industry. But what we just look at it like improving things for consumers, and we lean on each other, but we also just think like our mission is so great that there aren't very much things that can put us down on achieving that mission.
I dig it. I appreciate that.
Anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
We're doing training today later on this book called The Cold Start Problem. I highly recommend it to any founder who really wants to kind of learn about network effects, and in a very tangible way. So that would be like my recommendation for a book, because we've done training on this like at the start of the company, kind of like a couple months ago, but now we're revisiting it now that we're at this point of scaling, and there's a new perspective that you can take away every time, no matter what stage of the company you're at. And so I just think it's really cool because it goes through how all these various companies solved what they call the cold start problem when it comes to generating network effects, because there's always like a hard side to the market and then the easier side of a market. And they'll talk about the stories of companies like Tinder, Zoom, and they'll just give real world examples of like what they actually did. And there's a lot of analogies that apply to any startup. And so I can't recommend that book enough.
That's great. That was one of my questions. I know that you're well read, so thanks for knocking that out. I will have to take a look.
Have you read that, Tim?
I have not. I'm gonna.
Have you heard of it?
I've not.
Andrew
It's
Chen.
by
I remember that guy.
Andrew Chen. He was at Uber during like their high growth phase. So there's a lot of Uber examples too.
I dig it.
Just
I
some
mean-
really, really cool stories in it.
If you think about the last 25 years, it's obnoxious. Hey, take a picture, upload it for the world to see. No. Hey, go stay in a stranger's house. No. Hey, go get in a rando's car to take you somewhere. No. 25 years ago, you never would have done those. That's Facebook, Airbnb, and Uber, right? All juggernauts, all unicorns with things that no one would have thought you would have ever done before.
Well,
And actually,
and
those have
even
been
now.
around for, now you need them.
Look,
Maybe not Facebook.
look, and now look at Waymo and Robotaxi. Now you're getting into a car when there's not even a driver in the car.
Yeah, and then you
That one's
juxtapose
going to be
you
harder.
juxtapose that, like you juxtapose that to real estate, right? And it's not too hard of a leap to say someone can buy a house on their own and save thousands of dollars. Like that's kind of like this mental leap we're making here, and it's not that big of a mental leap.
I guess the biggest challenge is hoping that houses don't at some point get on Amazon.
Well, what's to stop VroomBrick from becoming that Amazon?
There you go. What an answer. What an answer. Tim, you got something for him?
Well, I'm just curious. I don't know if we were doing this first time that you were on the show. That I cannot remember. But as you know, we're always looking for the food of the region. I know you're all over the place, from Richmond to Virginia Beach and everywhere in between. What is your suggested food of the region that we need to market? I know we've talked about the Orange Crush a time or two in your office there, but I'm just curious, what's your take?
Well, the last time I was on this pod, the place I said closed down. So
you closed the
I'm not trying
restaurant.
to-
Way to go.
I'm not trying to send some bad omens on any restaurants, because I truly did like the place. It was amazing.
The Leland effect.
it was-
What was the restaurant?
Amaro in Newport News Town Center is an Italian place. It's very good customer service, great food. I just don't think it got enough traction. So I have to think carefully about this one. This might be just like overplayed, but a place I've been going to recently in general is East Beach, where, Kova Brewery is there, a great spot. But there's a couple new restaurants and shopping centers, or a shopping center that opened up there as well. So I'll definitely recommend checking out East Beach as a whole, because it's a great part of Norfolk.
Got it.
I'll tell you
And
one time.
next time you're on, 16 months, East Beach is going to be gone. Way to go, Leland. Thank you very much.
East Beach is
I know
gonna be
we,
underwater.
Leland and I had lunch at Stockpot a couple of months
Oh, yeah.
ago, and we had to wait like 45 minutes just to get a table. We had to wait a long time. The place is
Yeah,
popping.
yeah, busy in a good way, and food is pretty good.
Well, Leland, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you raising your hand. I look forward to continuing along this journey in offices next door to one another. And I wish you and the team the very best. So thanks for all you do.
Yeah, I'll be listening to the walls a little bit closer this time, so I can get some dirt for Zack in the future.
Please do. You have my cell phone now, so whenever there's something good, give me the spicy stuff. Not in emojis way. I can't understand what that stuff means. So I need like full on text.
Yeah.
Leland, appreciate it.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ryan, Executive Director of Innovate Hampton Roads, and I am inviting you to 757 Tech Night on October 9th.